Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for our 12th episode of season one. My topic of discussion this week is being sober and free. And joining me today is Christopher Wright. Texas born singer songwriter Christopher Wright is set to release his second EP, What Makes This Garden Grow, on September the 23rd. Combining elements of Americana blues and traditional country music, the EP is a continuation from his last release about his personal experience of overcoming addiction to present day life experience about falling in love, accountability, and finding inner peace. Christopher says, my first album was about losing everything I never had. I called it that because in getting sober, I realized anything I thought I had ever possessed was an illusion. I had to lose myself to be found and turn my selfish ways of thinking inside out and never stop realizing that I'm not really the one in charge. We know that God is in charge, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for joining us today. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Listen, guys, this is so awesome. God always orchestrates everything. I met Christopher in a hotel lobby and I was talking to him about what he was doing. And I was like, oh
San
my God, I would
Antonio,
love
Texas.
it was in San Antonio, Texas, and it was hot there, wasn't it?
It was,
It
yeah.
was hot in June. So that's how we met. And thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I really, really do appreciate it. So I like to Google. And so I found this and I thought, oh my God, this would be so great. But it says it is important to provide a structured approach to becoming sober rather, and whole by learning about addiction, addressing underlying issues, and developing healthy and coping strategies rather. What's your thought about that?
Well, for me, it started with a judge telling me if I didn't pull my head out of my butt, I was going to be going to prison.
Oh my God.
It doesn't get any more real than that.
You're
And
right.
somebody says, hey, you want to go, either you stop acting like that or you're going to be spending a little extra time in Huntsville, Texas. And I knew I wasn't fixing to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I had a working knowledge of addiction. That's for sure. I had, I think somewhere, well, in 2016, I had acute liver failure.
Wow.
So it got really real fast. And but up until that point, I had played around with trying to, get sober for a couple of years. And I knew I needed to. I just didn't have, I guess I'm that special kind of knucklehead that needs a little bit more motivation, I guess. But yeah, it got real fast for me. And then I dove in full-heartedly in 2016. September the 23rd was the last day that I had anything to do with anything toxic in my body.
Awesome. So that's why you're debuting your new record, your new release in September 23rd. It's like a celebration for you, would you say?
Well, it's funny. It just kind of worked out that way. It's weird because, well, my dad's birthday, he's passed, but my dad's birthday was the 23rd. And then my sobriety date was the 24th. So it was like the first day. And, I never planned any of that.
Right.
Whenever the single or the EP came out, it was like, it just kind of happened that way. Yeah. It seemed like it was serendipitous for sure. But I can honestly tell you, I really didn't plan on it.
Okay. Well, God has a sense of humor, right? He does things the way he wants to do them. It went on to say, understanding addiction, introduction to addiction as a disease that affects the brain and the behavior. Overview of different types of addiction, the impact of addiction on physical, and you just talked about that, emotional and social well-being. What's your thought on that?
Well, I know that it's definitely a very dark place as far as your mental side of it goes, because you don't feel like, at least my experience, and that's the only thing I can trade on is my experience. My experience is that it's like that you don't feel like you even deserve any better than what you're getting, and I think that once I kind of somehow got my foot in the door of understanding that, I really do kind of have I do deserve to make it past this thing.
Sure.
And I really did. I had to 100% concede my will over to the care of a higher power that has said, I can carry you through this thing, because doing it on my own was all I ever tried to do.
Right.
And that didn't work.
Right.
So once I was able to kind of, I think the spirituality part of it is actually what makes it work. It's my personal opinion. I don't think that there's any, well, I know for me, 100%, there's no way that I could, without prayer and meditation, there's no way I could have made it.
And there's a scripture where the word of God says your gifts will make room for you and put you before great people. But in addition to that, God knows what he has for you. And even though we can't see it and we're in a dark place, and we were talking about that on our Bible study this morning, that it is an area of just trusting God in the situation, because like you said, it's so out of your control. But if I could just, like the Bible says, cast thy cares upon the Lord, and he's so gracious to take care of every issue. And actually, like you said, showing you who Christopher really was and wanting to change. So wouldn't you say, though, that your health issues what caused you to change, and the trauma that you probably mentally went through? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that it was necessary. When I pray, I say thank you for all those nights, those horrible days, the really hard parts. I am more appreciative of that stuff than any of even the good things that have come, because I know that it's made me who I am today. I wouldn't trade any of it, oddly enough, for anything, because those trials and tribulations that were put in front of me were necessary into being able to tell the story that I believe that I'm trying to tell now, so that I can say to someone who's out there that still might be knocking their head into the same walls, that they can, you don't necessarily have to do that. And I can, I just know it from experience, I guess.
Right. Absolutely. One of the pastors at our ministers at our church preached on Sunday, and he said, go to a place where you're thanking God that for what did not happen, because what could have happened. Oftentimes we're asking for this and asking for that, but did you ever stop to thank God for what did not happen to you, that you are still here to be a testament to others that may be dealing with it? It also goes on such things like therapy, and some people have to have medication. Thank God I'm sure that's not your case, but self-help.
Well, I did. There for the first bit. I mean, just to get back to like homeostasis, I mean, I had to, I had all kinds of stuff. I remember I think weaned me off of everything, because I was like, it was like antidepressants, and then my iron was low. So they really had to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, so to speak. So I don't think that I was operating completely on my own in homeostasis without having to take anything except for vitamins for probably, it took me 18 months or 2 years.
Okay. So basically what you're saying, and we have to be patient, right? Because it does actually take time. And sometimes and that's what they were talking about. Sometimes you need the therapy, you need the medication, the self-help groups. And he said, developing healthy coping strategies. What healthy coping strategies? So let's talk about that for a minute, because those healthy coping strategies could be a woman, it could be a friend, it could be somebody who's in your life that's helping you to cope. When they see you going in the wrong direction, they're able to pull you back because they love you so much. It could be a mother, brother, sister, cousin. What's your thought about that, having the right people in your life during those times?
Man, it definitely takes a village, for sure. The last house on the block for me, because I tried, I had gone into a couple of different like short-term rehabilitation things. I detoxed probably 8 or 9 times.
Wow.
I was in 2 or 3 jails. It was a nightmare, man. And I woke up in a park with nowhere to go, and just me and my dog, and literally, and I was using I had my briefcase was my pillow. It was bad, man. And but the last house on the block for me was the 12-step program and Alcoholics Anonymous there in Plano, Texas, a place called ODAT. It's one day at a time. And I went in there with my tail tucked between my legs. I was like was jaundicely yellow, and I
Mm,
left my ego at the door. I mean,
wow.
funny thing, I was having this conversation with my wife just a couple of days ago, and it was like, I had an ego that was telling me I don't need anybody's help. I'll be homeless because my pride's saying, you know what, I'm too good for that, even though I have nothing and I've already
Right.
disseminated my life. I mean, too good for what?
Right.
No.
Right.
But I'm still, but it's like the lies that you continue to tell yourself, like
Mhm.
it's so the disease is real. I mean, we sit there and lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we don't have a problem.
Right.
And even though you've got every single indication possible that, you know, your world is falling apart.
Right.
But yeah, so 12-step program was amazing in getting me back together. And I had a account. I met just amazing people in there. I got a sponsor early in, and who had a sponsor, right?
Who had
So
a sponsor?
everybody had accountability on up the
Right.
chain. So, that's key, man.
Right.
They say that to everybody. I remember the last time I went to a place called Stepping Stones in
Mhm.
Florida when I got sober and detoxed for the last time. And they had these people that would come in and they'd talk to the people and they'd say, you need to get into a group. You need to get a sponsor. That's the most important thing.
Mhm.
And it got drilled into my head over the years. And that was really true. I mean,
Right.
because you can, when you're vibrating, because you're not comfortable in your own skin,
Right.
having that outlet to pick up the phone and say what's up. But as far as love or anything like that, I wasn't ready for a relationship really until I was at least 2 years sober before I could even think about, nobody. I wouldn't have wanted anybody to want to have been with me. You know what I mean? That was a mess.
Awesome, awesome, Krista. So you do feel the developing of relationships, which you developed along the way with the sponsor. I always
Right.
tell people every great leader follows another great leader. You're never just following by yourself, you're following somebody else. And so I love that every sponsor had a sponsor, that person had a sponsor. So it says identifying triggers and developing coping mechanisms to avoid relapse. Learning about healthy lifestyles and changes, including nutrition, exercise, and stress management, developing a support network, which you've done through Alcohol Anonymous, right? And
Yeah.
friends and family, as well as community and resource that may be helpful. Resource, there you go again, programs that will help you along your journey to recovery. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just having all those components, even though they may not have come all at the same time, but they did come eventually.
Yeah, I think there's definitely levels to it, is what I kind of see it as. I think that you just take your steps. As I got healthy, then I could kind of I started reading more. I started listening to more. I learned more about meditation, and that's a constant thing. I mean, I'm always looking for something else to broaden the scope of the way that I'm thinking. Not only for me, I'm a songwriter, so as a songwriter, I'm always looking for new things to wrap my head around that are going to make me better than the way that I was yesterday.
Sure.
And I'm really starting to understand like the power of right now. Right now where we are doing the very best next thing that we can do. And I think somewhere along the way that kind of started taking hold, whether it be start eating better. And then, I set a goal where, I wanted to get my body index to where I was at a certain percentage body fat and muscle. And then I just kind of started, got into some really good healthy habits in eating. And so now those are habits where I used to have habits of drinking and going hang out at the bar. It's more like I kind of do different stuff that makes me feel a little better. They suck up front, but once you get through the suck factor of like getting into cold baths and lifting and running and all that stuff, you feel great. So who knew you gotta go through a little bit of discomfort to get where you're going.
Let's talk a little bit about the group discussions and identifying underlying issues that contribute to your addiction. It's how important it is to share your experience, how important it is to be transparent. Like you said, I love what you said, Christopher. You said, I checked my ego at the doorway before I even enter in, because if you let that demon in, that ego, we know where that could take us, right? Like you said, denial, and helping them on your journey towards recovery. And it's also important to be encouraged and to encourage others, because now that you went through being encouraged, now you're in a place where you can encourage other people that are going through it. So could you just share a little bit about your thoughts about that?
Sure. I saw something. I was on the plane out here today. There's a thing on Instagram. I think the handle is called, it's sober is dope. It's pretty
Right.
cool. There's a lot of hip stuff on there. And there was a guy that said, we recover out loud so that others don't have to suffer in silence. And I thought that's pretty cool, man. Because, like if I can, I can be open and honest about my journey, then maybe the next cat is like, because it's hard to step out there and go, hey, you know what? I got a problem.
Right.
I feel like, that takes a lot. It took me a lot
of courage.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really big part about living my truth out loud and in a public forum. Because I mean, we've got several thousand people that are following us on Instagram and Facebook, and we got a bunch of people that are showing up to our shows, and some of them know, what my backstory is, and some of them don't care. And I don't really put it out there like
right.
I don't make it to where that's the focal point of what my stuff is,
right.
But I'll definitely be available for someone if they ever wanted to talk to me about it, for sure.
Awesome. And it says, I want to ask you this, how has your love for music, because I know you love music, and falling in love helped you on your journey? Because now you have a lovely wife. I met your wife, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
I can see why you love her. And so how do you feel that really contributed, or maybe not even so much contributed, but just kept you clear and focused about what was, what you needed to be focused on, what was true, what was real,
Well, so the love for music has always been there. I feel like when I was a little kid, I always knew I wanted to do this.
Wow.
And I used to kind of joke about whenever I was out there doing what I was doing, I used to think I was going to basically fall off a bar stool into a record contract, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. A lot of work in that industry, right?
Yeah. And, but it's like, it increased exponentially when I really started drilling down on the songwriting part of it, and really getting it better at my instrument, which I play the guitar. So that part started growing, but the muse part of it was really when I started falling in love with my wife, who you met. It was like it opened up a confidence, maybe is what it was, and it took away the inhibition to get on stage, because you saw her. I mean, if she likes me, then what do I have to worry about?
Right.
So I felt like it gave me confidence that I needed to go forward. There's nothing I could do without her. I mean, it's like, and she's, I know it's cliche to say, your partner is your best friend, but we really are. We're close, and it's it's a cool partnership.
Right.
So,
I definitely understand. My husband is my best friend. I've known him since I was 12 years old. So he's my best friend, and he's the one I go through and go to have the conversations with. And someone recently asked us what kept us together for so long, because we've been together for over 40 something years, and we both said, because we always allowed each other to be each other. We never tried to. This is not a relationship where a dictatorship, but it's a relationship. It's a friendship. And then we have a mutual relationship with the Lord, and we love God, and, we worship together. And so it's just all of the components that help to make the relationship healthy.
Yeah.
That is so key. Well, I want to thank you so much, Christopher, for taking the time today to be on Real Conversations with Nora. Are there any last minute comments that you would like to share with the audience before us closing today?
Well, I appreciate you having me. If any of your audience wants to find our stuff, it's at ChristopherWrightMusic.com. And we are on Spotify and iTunes and all the streaming platforms, all that good stuff. We got a song right now that's in the, it made it into the top 100 in the Texas country charts. So I think it's sitting at 64 right now this week.
Awesome.
So we're just out here writing new stuff this week, and we're just rinsing and repeating, just keep coming up with new stuff. So we're going to keep on doing it until So there's no breath in these lungs, I guess, is the way to look at it.
Well, again, I want to thank you for your insight on today's topic. It was so interesting, and it was fun. It was a great conversation, a great conversation. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow us on social media at BWOTMFG and on Facebook at Business Women on the Move for God. And visit our website at BWOTMFG.com and sign up for our new programs. And make sure you stop by a retail store where we have lots of great items, not only for you, but your family and friends. And ask your friends to watch the show each week and share it with others. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Real Conversations with Nora. I pray that the Lord would bless you exceedingly and abundantly and have a prosperous week.